I was always under the impression that the more Japanese words I could memorize in a day, the faster I get better at the language, and man was I wrong. I was scouring every nook and cranny of these textbooks and vocab lists, only to forget them like a week later. You may see a lot of courses or videos promising fast fluency, or learn fluent conversational Japanese in 3 months. Now the main issue here is that fast and fluent don't really work well together. While I can't promise you fast fluency, I can promise you faster fluency. And to do that, you need to focus primarily on consistency and memorization. In these 5 sections right here, we're going to talk about my approach to memorizing new Japanese words and then retaining them in the long term. Let's start off with cramming, or rather my issue with it. I get it, cramming's what all the cool kids do. You go from 1,000 known words to 5,000 to 10,000, but that's all short-term memory. I am guilty of this. I may or may not have memorized 300 jlpt N2 words right before I took the exam. Did it help me the next day? Yes. Did I remember them the next week? No. If you don't have a solid system in place for memorizing new words, then you're going to burn out quick. It's like sprinting with no warm-up. You're going to gas out and burn out immediately. So what is this solid system I'm referring to? Well, that brings me to section 2, SRS, or Space Repetition System. Now, I could bust out the graphs and numbers to explain SRS, but since you're bestowing your precious immersion time to watch this video, all I'm going to say is it knows right when you're about to forget something and it shows you a flashcard. And through this process, it takes words that you've encountered and stored in your short-term memory and converts it over to long-term memory. I'll give 2 use cases here. Let's say you have a beginner who's starting with 0 Japanese words. There's a lot of free flashcard decks online, such as the Core 1K and the Core 2K 6K. So for those of you who might be unfamiliar, the Core 1K deck that I'm referring to is a flashcard deck that contains the 1,000 most common Japanese words. Now you may see some crazy decks like the Core 100K or even the Core 1 million. Yes, these are real. My recommendation is to stray away from those. I would grind out the Core 2K, 6K and go on from there. So as a beginner, let's say you're tackling the Core 1K to learn the 1,000 most common Japanese words. Most SRS applications such as Anki, which are free to use, will let you set a number of new words per day. So let's say I wanted to learn 1,000 words in 100 days, then I could do 10 words a day. You put that deck in Anki, open it up, and start learning. And you see your first word. Let's just say it's wasureru, to forget. You do that first card along with your other 9 and you're done with your day. Day 2 rolls around, you do another 10 new cards, and then day 3 rolls around. And those cards that you saw on day 1 are shown to you again 2 days later. And you're going to see if over that 1 day gap, you were able to retain those cards. Because the SRS has essentially decided that right on that 3-day mark, you're just about to forget those words. If you remember them, you mark the cards as good and you move on with your day. And for the other ones that you're not so sure on, you mark as wrong and you study again. This gives the SRS more information to work with. It'll show you cards that you're not so comfortable with more often. And any that you do feel comfortable with, you won't have to see them as much, which brings down your study time. You can think of SRS as watering a plant just at the right time, not flooding it with gallons and gallons of water. So for my second use case, let's say that you're getting into Immersion or ajatt, all Japanese all the time. Well, maybe you're watching a spicy Japanese dub of Grey's Anatomy and you come across this word, identichirio, which means gene therapy. Now, instead of coming across this word in a flashcard isolated, you found it in a show that you're interested in with a scene, with visuals, and a sentence to go along with it. There is so much context here that you have so much more information to work with, which helps the word stick better. Which brings me to section 3, context. Going back to my flashcard example, words just work better with context rather than in isolation. Like, I don't know, let's take the word onara for example, which means to fart. If I just saw that word on a flashcard, flipped it over and saw the word fart, I'd be like, that's funny, and then keep going. But if I found it from an anime where, I guess, I don't know, maybe insert something right here. I don't know if there's an anime character just absolutely ripping it, but if I have that and the subtitles say in parentheses just like onara, and every time I do my flashcard, I'm reminded of that imagery. Weird example, I know, just bear with me, but that's going to stick way better. That image is burned in your mind, and that word is going to be a lot easier to remember because you have a personal memory associated with that word. This also tackles grammar study. My friend Seven Stop actually dropped a grammar video around the same time I did. You should watch it, it's really good. And he mentioned that the vast majority of Japanese grammar is just more words. So if you learn words in context and pull them from sentences to see how they're used, you're going to naturally pick up on verb conjugations, sentence structure, particles, and so on and so forth. Another tool I use for SRS and that I'd recommend is Migaku. I started out doing most of my mining on Yomitan and Anki, and that's a really good setup, especially since it's free. But if you do have a couple of bucks to spare, I really enjoy Migaku because it centralizes everything in a single tool. It also has official support for some pretty big streaming sites like Netflix, YouTube, and Disney+. And yes, it does have a built-in SRS that helps you review your flashcards at the most optimal time. Sentence mining also becomes one click, so you can spend less time making flashcards and more time actually consuming the content you like. Because of this, I can still remember words that I learned from anime years ago, and it's because the system never lets me forget. If this sounds interesting to you, you can get an extra free month on both the early access and the standard plans when you go to migaku.com/jareddesu. They're also doing a 10% discount on the lifetime plan. Okay, back to the video. Yeah, immersion sounds super fun, and it is, which is why I want to talk next about my turning point, moving from learning your first Japanese words over into immersing in content that you enjoy. Because to be honest, this is where the study process starts feeling less like studying and more like just living your life in Japanese. So just a quick summary of my Japanese learning journey. I started with some textbooks, Genki 1 and 2, and then Tobira Gateway to Advanced. And honestly, the level of Japanese I came out with after this could have been done way faster if I just did the core 2K and read some grammar guides along the way. So if you're still at that stage where you're trying to pick up some Japanese words before starting to immerse, I'm going to drop those resources in the description, so feel free to check it out. In terms of when to actually transition from brute forcing your vocabulary to immersing, you're going to hear a lot of different opinions, but honestly, you can start whenever. Let me add a disclaimer though. Let's say we have two learners. We have Bob and we have Ross. Now, Bob here has learned 1,000 of the most common Japanese words, and Ross here has learned 3,000. If we both sit them down to watch Osomatsu-san, really good anime by the way, I think that which one was Ross? I think this is Ross. Okay, Ross, I'm sorry, Ross is going to have a significantly easier time watching the anime because his vocabulary is 3 times the size of Bob's here. Now, don't get me wrong here. With 1,000 of the most common Japanese words under your belt, you're still going to comprehend a good chunk of Japanese, but Bob here is going to have to do a lot more lookups in his dictionary than Ross over here. Now for sentence mining. Typically, the best time to mine a sentence is if it's an I+1 sentence, meaning that you understand every word in the sentence except for one. So for example, let's say you're learning English and I say, "This book is interesting," and I know every single word in that sentence except for book. But as a human, I know what a book is. Now, if I save the sentence, "This book is interesting," to a flashcard, and there's the added context of my favorite Japanese learning YouTuber saying it, right? Then it becomes much easier to remember and it's going to stick a lot better. So just keep in mind that the earlier you switch over from grinding up words to immersing, it's going to be a little bit harder. Now, I am going to get people in the comments asking for a number, so I'm just going to say that I transitioned over personally at around 3,000 known words. Also, keep in mind that not all Japanese content is the same difficulty. I mean, you've got Death Note and Psychopaths up here, but you can easily watch Komi-san Can't Communicate. If you want to gauge how easy or how hard a book, light novel, manga, anime, whatever might be for your level, I'd recommend going to jpdb.io. They have an extensive database of Japanese content, and you can look it up, and there'll be different ratings on the difficulty, the number of unique words, and overall, I find it pretty useful. But once again, if you're truly interested in reading a certain piece of Japanese media, don't let the difficulty dissuade you away from enjoying it. If you find the process truly fun and you pace yourself, you'll avoid burning out. Just keep in mind that you don't need to memorize harder, you just need a system that remembers for you. Now, learning languages is always going to be free, and if you do want a tutorial on how to set up Anki and Yomitan, I actually made a banger video here on that, and if you want to access Japanese Netflix on your phone without any restrictions, here's another video I uploaded last week. And if you want to connect, you can hop in our Discord in the description. We've got a ton of motivated learners, and we'd love to have you. As always, thank you so much to my wonderful channel supporters and my patrons. So keep learning, keep immersing, and don't forget. See you in the next one. Bye.